What if you woke up tomorrow and the world had fallen silent? Not the peaceful quiet of a Sunday morning, but a deep, profound stillness. You go to start your car, and nothing happens. You turn the knob on your gas stove, no blue flame. A sudden chill as the central heating fails to kick in. This isn't a power outage, this is something far more fundamental. Every molecule of gasoline and natural gas simply vanished. How would we survive a day a week, a lifetime? A silent world starts with a confused whisper. The morning commute would cease to exist. Eerily empty 8-lane highway at rush hour. Empty city streets and intersections. The school bus wouldn't arrive. The delivery truck would be stranded miles away. The symphony of engines replaced by unnerving quiet. We would start to see how deeply we depend on invisible fuel. Confusion gives way to isolation. News would travel slowly. The story of a world without gas is a story about us. To truly grasp what we would lose, we must first see what we have. Gasoline and natural gas are like the silent, tireless giants of our civilization. We rarely think about them, yet they are always at work. Gasoline, a refined product of crude oil, is the lifeblood of transportation. It packs an incredible amount of energy into a small, liquid volume, allowing us to power cars, trucks, planes, and ships across vast distances with relative ease. Then there is natural gas, the cleaner, unseen cousin. It is a mixture of gases, primarily methane, that we pull from deep within the earth. This invisible force flows through a vast network of underground pipelines reaching directly into our homes. It's the magic behind the instant flame on your stove that cooks your dinner. It's the warmth that radiates from your furnace on a cold winter's night. Beyond our homes, it is a titan of industry. It fires the kilns that make cement and glass, generates a massive portion of our electricity, and is a key ingredient in the production of fertilizers that feed the world's population. Think of these gases as stored sunlight, captured by ancient plants and organisms millions of years ago. In our gasless world, the first and most jarring change would be the stillness of our daily routines. For a family in the suburbs, the morning would be a cascade of failures. The car, now a useless metal sculpture in the driveway, means no one is getting to work or school. The quick breakfast of toasted bread and microwaved oatmeal becomes impossible as the local power plant, reliant on natural gas, sputters and dies. Even making a simple cup of coffee is a challenge without a gas stove or an electric kettle. The home, once a sanctuary of modern convenience, suddenly feels like a disconnected island, its technological lifeline severed. For a city worker, the day would be an exercise in futility. Imagine an office worker living 20 miles from their job. That commute, once a 45-minute drive, is now an insurmountable distance. The entire concept of a centralized business district would instantly become obsolete. Those skyscrapers themselves would become vertical tombs. Without electricity from gas-fired plants, there would be no lights, no computers, no elevators, and no climate control. The modern office would cease to function, and with it, the global economy it represents. Our modern cities are magnificent, complex organisms. They are humanity's greatest achievement, but they have a critical vulnerability. They are utterly dependent on a constant flow of energy, much of which comes from gas. These vibrant hubs of culture, commerce would become concrete jungles, their arteries clogged and their hearts silent. The first thing to fail would be logistics. A city is not self-sufficient. It needs to be fed, watered, supplied every single day. Without gasoline-powered trucks, the flow of food from farms to urban supermarkets would stop within 24 hours. Shelves would go bare, and panic would set in. The vertical nature of cities would become their biggest liability. A skyscraper is a marvel of engineering, but it is unlivable without power. Imagine being on the 50th floor when the elevators stop working forever. How do you get down? How do you bring up food, water, medical supplies? The simple act of living in a high-rise apartment would become a daily struggle for survival. These vertical neighborhoods would quickly be abandoned, their residents forced to seek shelter closer to the ground. The iconic skylines that define our cities would become monuments to a bygone era of abundant energy. Waste management, the unseen and unthanked hero of urban life, would also collapse. Without them, trash would pile up in the streets, creating a dire sanitation crisis. When mobility is restricted to the speed of a horse and energy is limited to what you can generate locally, a sprawling city becomes a trap. People would be forced to disperse, to move out of the urban centers and back toward the land, closer to sources of food and water. In the deafening silence of a gasless world, humanity's first and most desperate instinct would be to find a substitute. The scramble for alternative power sources would be immediate and honestly, pretty chaotic. Electricity would become the new gold. But where would it come from? Many of our power grids rely on natural gas turbines, especially for peak demand. Their sudden failure would cause a catastrophic collapse of the grid. Coal, nuclear, hydro, solar, wind would be all that we have left. The world would be plunged into a state of extreme energy rationing. Nations with abundant coal reserves or established nuclear programs would suddenly hold immense power. However, even they would face monumental challenges. On a smaller local scale, focus would shift to decentralized energy. Any home with solar panels on its roof would become an oasis of power in a dark world. Communities might rally around local wind turbines or small-scale hydroelectric dams on nearby rivers. People would build backyard biodigesters to create methane from waste and cobble together steam engines powered by burning wood or trash. The age of the centralized grid would give way to a patchwork of microgrids and individual generation. Your ability to thrive would depend not on your bank account but on your ability to generate your own watts. The scramble would reignite old technologies. Sailboats would once again rule the seas. The rhythmic clatter of the steam locomotive powered by coal or wood would return to the rails. We'd rediscover pre-oil technologies with 21st century science and desperate innovation. As our high-tech world grinds to a halt, we might find ourselves looking backward for answers, discover surprising, even delightful echoes of the past. The disappearance of the automobile would fundamentally change the pace of life. The frantic rush of the morning commute replaced by the gentle pace of walking or the quiet whir of a bicycle. Neighborhoods once bisected by noisy roads become peaceful pedestrian spaces. Children playing in the streets again, and the air, free from exhaust fumes, would become cleaner and clearer than it has been in over a century. The silence would be profound. The constant low-frequency hum of traffic and engines would vanish. In its place, rustling leaves, chirping birds, human voices. The night sky reveals full, breathtaking glory. We would be able to see the Milky Way from our backyards. It would be a world of newfound sensory richness. Fun fact, before the widespread adoption of the automobile, cities were designed for people, not cars, streets narrower, neighborhoods more walkable, local shops thriving. A world without gas would force a return to this model. Baker, butcher, grocer become community pillars as supply chains collapse. Rediscover knowing our neighbors, supporting local artisans. The world would become smaller, but more connected on a human level. Not entirely romantic. It would bring immense hardship. But it would also bring unexpected opportunities. Think of the skills we would relearn. Gardening, preserving food, mending clothes, carpentry. The art of conversation might be revived as people gather for entertainment instead of staring at screens. We would be forced to become producers again, not just consumers. In this quiet, slower-paced world, we might find a new appreciation for craftsmanship, for community, and for the simple, enduring pleasures of a life lived at a more human speed. The backbone of our modern economy is industry, and the backbone of industry is gas. From manufacturing, construction, agriculture, the sudden disappearance of these fuels would be a devastating blow. Consider the production of steel. It requires incredibly high temperatures, often achieved by burning natural gas or coke, a coal derivative. Without it, our ability to produce new steel would be severely limited. We would be forced to become a society of recyclers, melting down existing structures to forge the tools and materials needed for our new reality. Agriculture, the industry that feeds us all, would be thrown into crisis. Modern farming is a deeply energy-intensive process. Tractors, combines run on diesel. The production of nitrogen fertilizer, credited with feeding nearly half the world's population, relies almost entirely on natural gas as a key ingredient. Without these inputs, crop yields would plummet. We would be forced to return to less productive, more labor-intensive farming methods. The era of massive single-crop farms would end, replaced by smaller, diversified farms worked by human and animal labor. Feeding billions of people would become humanity's single greatest challenge. The world of plastics and chemicals would simply evaporate. Vinyl siding, polyester in our clothes, aspirin in our medicine cabinet. These are not just burned for energy. They are the chemical building blocks for a vast universe of synthetic materials. Without them, we would have to rely on wood, glass, metal, cotton, wool, and rubber. Our material world would become less colorful, less versatile, and far more expensive. But within this collapse lies an opportunity for a different kind of industrial revolution. We would be forced to innovate with what we have. A new field of bioplastics derived from corn or algae might boom. Material science would focus on creating strong, lightweight materials from wood and other natural fibers. The concept of a circular economy, where everything is reused, repaired, or recycled, would no longer be a buzzword but a strict necessity for survival. Industry wouldn't disappear entirely, but it would be transformed into something smaller, slower, more localized, and far more in tune with the natural world. Hardship is the mother of invention. A world stripped of its primary energy source would face unimaginable challenges, but it would also trigger an explosion of human ingenuity. With the old ways gone, every scientist, engineer, backyard tinkerer would be focused on a single goal: finding new ways to generate and use power. The focus would shift dramatically toward renewable energy, not as a choice but as the only path forward. Research into solar, wind, geothermal energy would accelerate at a breathtaking pace. We would see incredible advancements in energy storage. In our gasless world, developing better batteries would become the planet's most urgent priority. Entire landscapes might be transformed by new, massive-scale energy storage projects, becoming the beating hearts of our new, resilient power grids. Transportation would be completely reimagined. With gasoline off the table, electric vehicles would be king, but charging them would depend on the new fragile grid. This would spur the development of ultra-efficient, lightweight vehicles. We might see the return of the electric streetcar, the expansion of high-speed rail networks. For personal transport, the electric bicycle, scooter, other small mobility devices would dominate urban areas. The goal would no longer be speed and power, but maximum efficiency. Our cities would become quieter, cleaner, and designed for human-scale movement. The most exciting innovations might come from places we least expect. Genetic engineering could lead to new types of algae that produce biofuels with incredible efficiency. Material science might discover how to create building materials that can generate their own power. We might even finally crack the code of nuclear fusion, unlocking a source of clean, virtually limitless energy. The shock of losing gas would force us to take giant leaps, to pursue the ambitious, world-changing ideas that currently sit on the fringes of science. The crisis could, paradoxically, be the catalyst that propels us into a truly advanced technological future. In the end, what would a world without gas truly reveal about us? Stripped of the conveniences and the power that have defined the modern era, we might discover that our greatest resource was never buried underground. It has always been within us, our ability to adapt, to cooperate, to innovate. The initial chaos and hardship would be immense, but history shows that when faced with a common threat, humanity can be extraordinary. Neighbors would help neighbors, communities would band together, nations would be forced to collaborate in ways they never have before. Our ultimate power source is not fossil fuel, but the limitless, renewable energy of the human spirit. That is a power source that can never run dry.